Right. So, hello, everyone. Carlos again for another expert session number 64. And today I'm joined by someone I admire a lot and someone that I already consider a friend and an evolved member, Rodrigo Cerón, the former head of global marketing at Comscore, a leading media measurement and analytics company based in Mexico City, or actually in the countryside now. He brought strategy, content, and integrated marketing to a global stage. Today, he leads marketer ops as founder and CEO, mentors startups, teaches, and hosts the Catapulta Comercial podcast, where he explores retail media, digital advertising, and industry transformation. So, the topics we'll be covering today are the real lessons from inside a global media measurement firm, why many brands misinterpret audience data and what to do differently, the tension of leading at the top, balancing performance, politics, and pressure, navigating a career pivot, when and why to question your next move, and the strategic role of cross-border partnerships in media and marketing, which is what we do here also at Evolve. Rodrigo, welcome. I always start with a controversial question. And the question for you today is marketing losing its seat at the executive table because CMOs never spoke the language of business? And now it's too late.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for having me. Interesting question. I don't agree with that statement. To be honest, it is true that the CMO is the position in the company with more rotation in the companies globally. No, they lose their job very frequently, and I think it's not because they don't understand the business. I think it's more because they don't understand the customer or the client. I think that's the main reason. But definitely, in terms of the corporation or a company, it is a very important seat because at the end of the day, you have the voice of the client, you have the products there, the way of communicating, and this is the best way to empower the sales team and the companies to increase the footprint and sell more, you know. So I think that the focus that we as marketers need to have, definitely we need to know the numbers, the business numbers, what are the targets, what are the revenue goals that we need to reach. But on the other side, it's also to understand the client, our audience, who is going to hear our message, and how we will do it in a way that it will resonate for them, no, and engage them. Definitely, we need to understand the numbers. For example, CMO should be able to translate some indicators or metrics, and translate likes and engagement into sales, because at the end of the day, the members of the board, they won't care if we have engagement or not, or how many people like to our post. They want to know how that impacted the business and how that is making the business grow. No, so we as marketers are the responsibles to make this translation. On one side, focus on branding, on messaging, storytelling, clicks, links, likes, and how do we translate this into a business growth. This is how I see things, and definitely marketing will be getting every day a more important role on this table that you mentioned.
Fascinating. And I couldn't agree more. We always ask our best friend nowadays, ChatGPT, to formulate a controversial question. So I think you managed to answer it very well. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, at the end of the day, as a CMO, I think CMOs, and we see the same in partnerships. Gustavo has a very strong background in partnerships. It's also about leveling expectations when you join the organization, right? So understanding the organization, how it works, who's your client, and also the internal politics. I never worked for a large organization. I've always been a consultant forward slash entrepreneur. So I have a hard time understanding that side of the world, like the bigger corporations. But I think leveling the expectations, also understanding that you need to provide quick wins as in your 100 days. You probably need to deliver some results. You don't need to go for a website revamp, right? You need to make sure you're delivering results. I mean, I think any CMO with common sense would agree with that, and then they can think
For sure.
longer term, right? But Rodrigo, you have a very interesting background. Always thought your background was very interesting. You're based in Mexico, so tell us that story, like going from Comscore to marketer ops. So what was the moment you realized global measurement wasn't just metrics, but a business lever?
Well, I think there was an intermediate step when between Comscore and marketer ops. To be honest, I always have like this entrepreneurial vein, like since I left school in my early days, and this was something that indeed I started my career like um, with a startup, a technological startup, that when I developed it, it was like I was like 23 years old. I was like not knowing anything about business, and to be honest, I was lacking of this experience of the corporate world. At least that's what I felt, no. So I decided to join a company, to leave my startup and join to understand for a couple of years. Then 17 years passed until I get back to this entrepreneurial career. But that was interesting because that gave me a completely different perspective about the world, about the marketing team, about metrics in general. So Comscore was a great school because it helped me to understand um, everything related in the digital advertising landscape, because as a measurement company we were in the middle of this ecosystem. So we worked with digital media, we worked with platforms, we worked with agencies and with companies, with advertisers. So that helped me to understand the full landscape of the digital advertising industry. So indeed, marketer ops was born 8 years ago. To be honest, it was still when I was working at Comscore with my partner. My partner worked for L'Oreal and Revlon on the professional part of their products. And I was more in a consultative role as an advisor. My main focus was Comscore and my corporate life. But I decided last year to jump in and make this big leap to drive what I was been learning for many years and apply what I've seen in Latin America, in South America, in the US, in Europe,
Mhm.
to local companies, no, and also to help bring this link between companies outside and the companies in the Latin American territory, because there is a huge opportunity. There is a huge opportunity here. For example, the digital ad, no, the ad spend in general in Latin America is 31, almost $32 billion. No,
Mhm.
so definitely there is an opportunity, and I work with tech companies and especially ad tech companies to arrive and land here and help them build these bridges between the local companies and generate demand for them, you know?
Brilliant, brilliant, and well, I think you touched on some very interesting aspects. I would like to ask a little bit why you decided then to step away from Comscore. What was the moment, if there's yeah, that you said, okay, I'm gonna give that leap and do my thing here. And what I think it's interesting about your experience, I've heard about Comscore, but I wasn't so well versed into what they do. And maybe you can correct me here. I just asked GPT what they do. So Comscore specializes in measuring and analyzing media consumption across platforms like digital, TV, and mobile. So they provide data and insights for advertising agencies, which you mentioned, brands, publishers, and enterprises to help them understand audiences and campaign effectiveness. So that in a nutshell tells me that they understand the ecosystem, right, of digital, of advertisement, and then they specialize into the digital aspect of it. So tell me a bit about why you decided to give that leap, just to be an entrepreneur, and your visions on more like a systemic vision or views, because at Evolve, you remember, I think you get it. A lot of people don't get why we focus on an ecosystem rather than being a CMO sort of network and kind of that kind of stuff. So if you could elaborate on my questions, would be great.
Yes, while working on Comscore, I realized that um, there was a trend that it was very interesting at that time. It was in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of a pandemic. We were doing a podcast with the chief marketing officer for Latin America of L'Oreal, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about retail media,
Mm-hmm.
and that concept for me like blew my mind, and it was like wow, this going to change everything, like, and right now a consultancy like eMarketer says that retail media is the third way of digital advertising, after social
Mm-hmm.
media and search. So after that I had the opportunity to work for a German company called Crealytics,
Mm-hmm.
and they were focused on retail media. So that was a huge opportunity for me because I wanted to learn more about retail media and about the ecosystem. So that helped me to understand it in a global perspective, because I was the only employee in Mexico. Everything was for Europe
Mm-hmm.
then and the US, and then they do. A new brand called Pentalip, that is the
Mm-hmm.
retail media solution that they are selling. And in that process, that's when I decided it's time for me to take the right
The leap.
the leap, exactly the leap.
The Cerón leap. The Cerón leap.
The Cerón leap, and jump to to the
Uh,
other side, and I feel then prepared, and I think that I have the tools that I needed to start doing my own way, and that's how it happened.
Very, very good, very interesting. And yeah, if we talk about you know what you're doing today, so tell us about how you're helping your clients. I think it's very interesting. You know that we have several people in the Evolve Commerce Club who are in a career transition. So how are you helping your customers? How you define your offerings? I like to, we'll speak about the market and all of that, but I like to explore a little bit of that side of your career and how you came about your ideal clients. Getting your first customers. What are you offering them?
Yes, well, w- when I decided to go on my own, one thing I liked from my previous role was this global interaction. This community, this global community. I work with people in India, in Germany, in the US, in Brazil. And I love that part of my role. So that's where Evolve got like a very relevant role, because today Evolve is my way to keep engaged with these global communities. No, and I can have a call with someone in London and to see how we can help them in Latin America, for example. And one example is SaaS. No, this software company through Evolve, with Cornelia Reitinger, that we have the first conversations, and we are now locally helping them to open market for their ad tech solution. No, so for me, this is one of the pillars of the work that we are doing, helping companies from abroad, from outside, from Europe, from the US, from Asia, to help them understand the local market and generate demand locally. For example, I work with another company from Hong Kong that they work in a technology for chatbots through WhatsApp. No? and we did for them an event in Mexico City in W Hotel 2 weeks ago, just to gather some potential clients and get them more interaction with this market, because what they've seen is that there are interest in the Latin American market for their tools. No, so people here are searching for technology outside, made in the US, made in Europe, made in Asia, to apply it locally. No, so
Hmm.
this is like one part of our focus, and the second part of our focus is the local companies, these
Hmm.
mid-market companies that still need some strategy in terms of the digital transformation. No, so we help them to use these tools, no, these platforms, to help them adopt these new technologies, to generate more leads or to generate demand for their companies. No, so we basically work with tech companies initially, and then we are now working with education companies and financial companies. Those are my three pillars right now. But definitely, we have been very lucky that there is a lot of interest in these kind of solutions. So what we do is to define a plan with them to understand their needs, to help
Hmm.
them understand how to uh, make their message arrive to the right people, and
Hmm.
join the dots, basically. No, so
Yeah.
that's where we are focusing right now.
Very nice. Rodrigo, what you're telling me is basically, and this is really nice for me always to talk to our members. Number one, you value perspective from multiple markets, right? Like, provided that you work for a global company, you enjoy being in environments where you can, you can have perspective. This is very interesting because we spoke to an executive from a really, really big company, and he said, guys, what I value in Evolve is perspective. So he's more like consuming knowledge because he doesn't have time. Like you today, you value perspective, but you're not tied to a large organization that is consuming all your time. So you also can, take advantage of the network in that sense and benefit your company. But in his very case, perspective, which is something you talked about. The other thing is, Lost in Translation, the movie. Have you watched that
Yes,
one?
for sure.
Yeah.
I haven't,
And it's
but I know it.
which
Mm.
is pretty much what you're saying, right? Because many companies, and we see this quite often at the club, in the end, they want to tap into a new market, but they get lost in translation. It's like coming to Denmark. If you come to Denmark, I'm not sure if you speak Danish. I believe you don't, but you would
No, I
surprise
don't.
me. you know, and if people start speaking Danish, you don't understand the context, and that's pretty much what you do, right? So you're an accelerator. You have the club, and other networks that you're part of, and relationships that you have, to bring companies into your local reality and help them not be lost in translation, right? So that's basically what you do. That's very cool, man. And tell me a little bit about the process of discovering your offerings from, when you decided to become independent until you had your first client. How was that?
Well, it was quite a process, It's not easy because at the end you have the blank page and you want to decide what is the road for you. So I started like highlighting what were the things that I liked from my actual roles and previous roles, and what is the direction I wanted to give it to my agency. So like try to think the things that you like this global interaction, help working with other cultures, uh, my expertise, because I've been a marketing director for many many years. So I was able to work with different tools. I worked with different agencies. So I think that was an advantage for me, that I know, or I knew the other part of the business. I knew what was to have a board meeting where we need to give results, and we need to show results for the business. And now as an agency, I like to help to that level, to help my clients to show that it's not only we want 3 likes or 3 followers, it's how this will impact the business. And that's how it is my actual approach. So obviously I come from a tech industry and tech environment. So I focused on tech companies. No, my first client was a Motorola partner, no, that we
Mm-hmm.
helped to run their campaigns. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was a telecommunications company, and then it started diversifying. But definitely highlighting what were the things that I think I was strong at, and what were the things that I liked, and envision how I can make that, because definitely I made this transition, and it hasn't been easy, but definitely I've been working to make this grow and make this big. I'm really working hard to make this big. I don't want to do something just for doing it, or something temporarily between other jobs. For me, this is
Mm-hmm.
my focus for my life, no.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that a business grow when you give focus to it. If
For
you are
sure.
focused on it, things will grow.
Yeah.
And also, if I grow as a person, the business grow. That's another thing that I discovered in the middle, that I need to work on myself as well,
Mm-hmm.
because this will reflect on my business and on what I do. So I think it's a learning process. I can't say that I am
Mm-hmm.
there, I already get where I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I usually see these kind of interviews in different podcasts. I love podcasts, and
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like the people that is talking is already there. No, it is in a
Mm-hmm.
position that he can
Yeah.
tell what people should do, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't feel like that. I like
Mm-hmm.
in the early stages, on the early steps of the road where I want to reach. That's how I see at least my road.
No, and I feel the same. Thank you for sharing. Like, if I share my own perspective, it's a pity because yesterday we had our meeting, and we need to find a way to get you included in the private sessions as well. Find a better time, however we're gonna do it. But and one of the things that we are doing in the private sessions now are the hot seats, right? Where we're discussing our perspective instead of saying that's how you do, because that's more like a mentor ish. But we don't want to patronize the members. So share your perspective. And in my perspective, what I want to share, I think I have there's a lot of parallels to what you're saying. 2023 was the worst year of my life, and maybe the best, because I was in between. It was after quite a few successful years, and then yeah, I went through some personal things, divorce, and so on. And then those personal things, they affect your business, regardless. They're gonna affect your mindset, your head, your mental health. You got bills to pay. And then in 2023, I went through a moment in my life where I felt lost, and I didn't know where to go anymore. If I was gonna mentor people on how to use LinkedIn for their personal brands, and then I started mentoring some people in Brazil, but Brazilian currency doesn't even compare to Danish currency. You cannot pay the bills. So, and I had the idea of building the club and doing international expansion, but at some point I was in the middle, and I needed to commit to a decision. So by the end of 2023, I said I'm gonna go all in the club. I know it's gonna take time. I think I have something here, so started building, but it's never ready, and it's hard. It's hard. But if you don't commit, and I played tennis when I was younger, and they said
Mhm.
that if you stay uh, in the middle of the court, you stay in the mata burro, and that's how we call it in Portuguese. Then you're screwed. You got to take a decision. You either go to the net to try and volley, or you stay at the back. So I couldn't agree more with what you're saying.
And
Just go all in, right?
yes, and what I've seen is I mentioned that I founded Marketer Ops 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, the growth that we are seeing right now, since the time where I was 100% focused on it, can't
Mm-hmm.
compare to 7 years back, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
at the end, until you they say that you burn your ships,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
burn it, and you need to stay there, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
need to focus 100% on it, because if not, this won't grow. And I can see the difference, because
Mm-hmm.
in the past I was like, okay, I will spend some time and I start building some things. I will give
Mm-hmm.
some advice. We always had clients, but
Mm-hmm.
my role was like just helping things, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily full. You know, when you
Mm-hmm.
go deep, I remember I worked for IBM like 15 years ago or more, and it was in a stage where the company was like coming back from hard times, no, and I was like asking everyone what they are doing, to grow, no, because it's a 100 years company
Mm-hmm.
having hard times, and how you change the wheel, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone was saying focus, just
Mm-hmm.
focus, decide what we're going to pursue and focus on it, and the
Mm-hmm.
results came, you know, and and
Mm-hmm.
and those time was a very good times for IBM. So that's a very good learning for me. When you focus 100% and full put all your soul on it, definitely grows, you know.
Brilliant, brilliant. Rodrigo, talking a bit about your area of expertise here, and audience and data, and what brands miss, and when you're advising clients on that front. So, what's a common mistake companies make when using data to assess audience engagement? And can you share a case where ComScore data led to a strategy shift that surprised everyone?
Well, they say that if you can measure it, you can improve it. No, that's the first premise. So the first mistake that companies make is that they are not measuring at all. You know, that they work by feeling. They see, oh, we have a good engagement in this post, and that's nice, but that doesn't make a strategy. You know? I was reviewing the other day HubSpot, the CRM, and they have like 400 metrics around that. So
Mm-hmm.
if imagine a Formula One car with 400 buttons, you know, like how do you decide what you need to push to make the car move? So in this case, the first phase is to choose what are the right metrics for you. Because, for example, if you are an e-commerce, it's not necessarily the same metrics that if you are a digital media. For example, time time spent on your page. If you are a digital media or a social media platform, you want people to stay more time and more time and more time, because that's the currency for their business. But if you are a bank, you don't want to spend hours and hours in your platform, because that means that they don't know uh, how to manage your platform, no, so you want people to go make the transaction and leave. So it depends on the nature of the business. So what I've seen is that when companies start measuring, then it opens the door to start creating strategies, because then you have a new window to see that, okay, I need to increase the number of followers, or increase the engagement with them. What we need to do as marketers is to go to the specific communities. What happens right now is that there is an information uh, everywhere. So how do we highlight our content to the right people at the right time? That's our role as marketers, you know, to find the right people, the right audience. And digital marketing gives you a lot of tools for hyper segmentation. You can find executives that liked cars but like swimming at the same time, no, and then send a right message for them specifically. So to understand the audience, use segmentation to reach them, and understand the language of this community is crucial, because that will trigger the conversation. If you reach a company and you start talking in a different language that they are expecting, they won't understand you, even though you have the perfect product or everything. No, for example, we've seen this at Comscore with a social measurement tool called Shareably, with the football teams. No, Manchester United, Real Madrid, teams in Mexico as well, like Rayados, that start measuring the engagement. No, and sometimes you follow and you see, I have a million followers. Okay, that's amazing. But how many of those million, of that million, really interact with you? No. So what you need, if you want, if you're looking for, is store interaction, not only followers. So then you can measure which is this active, engaged audience. No, it's not only the audience, but which is the engaged audience. And then you define doing strategies and promotions and communication and see which kind of post. If you send a link, or if you send a video, or if you send only text, which is working better, what kind of feeling they are generating. Because perhaps if you are a political party, you see a lot of engagement, but all of the sentiment of those posts were negative, you know so you need to balance these kind of things that only the measurement, and the metrics will give you light on how to follow.
Brilliant. On the segmentation and super segmentation, super what do you call when you reach people where they are. Have you heard of telco media as well?
Yes, yes, this is
Yes.
very interesting. This is a new trend.
Yeah.
um, it's part of commerce media, like
Mhm.
commerce media is like involving many things like retail media, banking media,
Mhm.
telco
Yeah.
media. And specifically with us that I mentioned before, they are doing a great case, for example, with ITV.
Mhm.
What they are doing is that they are reaching the audience through advertising. So the telco company puts all the content there through the streaming,
Mhm.
and they are able to put a specific advertising for the audience. No, so that's incredible because, for example, if you live in a building, the apartment one and the apartment two can see the same content, but in
Mhm.
the apartment one you have a family, and in the apartment two you have a single guy. They will see different advertising
Mhm.
because they have different interests. No, so this is
Mhm.
now it possible, and this is made through these new technologies that allows to segment more, to reach the right people, to use the right channel. And even though we are seeing the same things, we are being impacted by different advertising. And it happens from since a long time ago in digital media. No, you enter to a newspaper online, and you were seeing the same news that in your neighbor, but you were seeing
Mhm.
different advertising because you have different profile. So this happens now in streaming and live TV. That is amazing through this telco media.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm mentioning that because we have in a club. I will introduce you if you haven't spoken to Gabriel. He is actually the guy in Brazil leading Claro, all of the telco
Mm.
media. He has underneath his, he comes from marketplaces, and he was leading the marketplace division in Claro in Brazil, which is Claro is it's the Mexican guy, the super rich guy from Mexico who owns Claro. And yeah, he's the guy leading the front in all of the media space. So ed tech, martech. I will introduce you to Gabriel, and we were talking recently about telco media in Brazil, and how that is emerging now, right? All of these different types of media, and it's super interesting because who doesn't have a phone nowadays? So and
Yes.
they have all of your data, they have everything, so they need to it's more like how they use your data, and they sell that however we didn't get into the details, but how they use that to advertise or to help advertisers talk to their customers, right? They're super interesting,
Yes,
pretty
and
relevant.
and and Brazil is leading
Mm-hmm.
the market, Latin American market, in terms of advertising and in terms of platform. And regarding the devices, yes, there was a study, I think it was from Boston Consulting Group, that
Mm-hmm.
says that 98% of the time in a day, the people has his or her phone in a distance between your arm and you, like an arm
Yeah.
distance.
Uh-huh.
98 of the time, and
Yeah.
98% of the time, even while we are sleeping. So that's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the easiest way to reach. And when I started at Comscore, we were measuring like desktop, no, and quickly it moved to mobile. And
Mm-hmm.
then we now have like Internet of Things, and we have wearables, and we this evolution, and now artificial intelligence, and the measurement companies need to adapt to this kind
Mm-hmm.
of devices and behavior from the company, from the people.
Yes, Rodrigo, if we talk about leadership, one of the things that I like asking former C-level folks like yourself and former leaders is to have these insights on leadership and what used to happen at the companies that they represented. So being at the center of a global teams means pressure. What's one leadership truth that no one talks about?
First of all, you need to know that the cultural differences. This is very relevant in a global role.
Hmm.
Because we don't do business the same way in Latin America or in Canada or in India. So we always need to have this present when doing business or working or giving a presentation, or when you have people reporting to you. It's not the same way that you will manage people in different regions. So for me, it was
Hmm.
crucial. I had the opportunity to manage people in different countries, and we work different, to be honest. No,
Hmm.
and they prioritize different thing, but they are all good workers. So first thing, I think we need to prioritize the team and give
Hmm.
them all the tools they need to have the best support to do their
Hmm.
job. I always say that if you are not happy doing what you do, please do something else, because the magic happens when you do the things that you like and you enjoy
Hmm.
the day to day. So this is very important. This is something that I always tell to my teams. um, Enjoy it. Do an effort to to make things better, to leave things better than how you receive it. And in terms of the management, it's always knowing your numbers, no? What you are doing, what your team is doing, what the business is needing. Because with that, if you understand very well your market, and you understand very well your numbers, no one will tell you anything, because you know what we are doing, because why you are doing that, and what
Hmm.
result you are doing. And nothing is perfect always, no, there are some bad years, good years, and everything. uh, but at least show that you are trying, are doing, and making things happen, and trying to move the wheel in case it is needed. No, this is for me two key elements in
Yeah,
a
no,
global career.
it's so interesting what you're saying because we have the Voices project, which is a media project we have, and it's run by different. In our case, we just have women at the moment running this project, so they are leaders. So we have Maisa in the Middle East; she's running the Middle East project that we have. We have Jade; she's covering APAC and the UK. She's based in the UK. We have Adilsa, they're very different people. Like, you know, I remember one time with Maisa, I thought she was angry, but she's super sweet and understanding the language nuances, in the Middle East, how they talk. In the US, sometimes more pragmatic, you know. Jade, she's a very interesting hybrid because she comes from the Philippines, based in the UK, so that's an interesting hybrid. She understands both cultures and she worked a lot with Brazilians. So it's interesting. you know. So what you say in terms of culture is it's super interesting because you always need to see things from their perspective, and if you don't understand, that's what we try to do at Evolve. Say, hey, can you please clarify, because this is not so common here for me. So maybe, so that's a massive learning for us running the Evolve Commerce Club.
Yes, it's very important. For example, um, to understand their cultural differences and their needs, because
Hmm.
uh, I once worked with a great sales manager that said that if you want to sell something, you need to understand what your potential client is winning at,
Yes, for
if
sure.
they buy you something, no?
Hmm.
So I think it's not only for buying and selling something. It's,
Hmm.
in working with someone, is you are offering always something, your time, or you are always requesting something. This is a buy and sell transaction as well, no? You need to convince someone what they will win with the
Hmm.
idea that you are selling. It's not only a
Hmm.
product or a service. What they are, their needs to really help you to move this forward, because selling idea or products or marketing, it's a win-win. If someone
Hmm.
loses, it's not a good transaction. So we always need to find the way that we all move forward and win. It's because we all look good, because we all sell more. It is because
Hmm.
you see like a better employee for your boss. What they are winning,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
or your company is growing, or you are getting connections. And when we understand that, we start in a position and a conversation that is very productive, because we are going to the same side. And perhaps there's no common way, and there's no relationship, and that's fine. Not everything will evolve,
Uh-huh.
but because we have different goals, and that's fine. If we don't have to go to the same way, to the same road. But it depends on this interaction that I think is very important, and to understand, to have always your ears open and understand. And that allowed me to make great relationships in this global community. And then you jump to more a personal
Hmm.
relationship. No, like I worked with one guy in the Netherlands. It started very professional, and then we were talking about football and the World Cup, and
Hmm.
and now we're still at days, even though we don't work together, we're still in touch, because this relationship evolve, and I think it's part of 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 living, and that's why I love this name of this community.
Brilliant. Rodrigo, in regards to marketing, I'll ask a question. Gustavo may jump in also here to ask his questions. But do you think CMOs, they have become too reactive, meaning that we have a very fractured media ecosystem driven by AI, social, now privacy shifts, and do you think, because I see that the other day I saw a post on LinkedIn, someone, it was yesterday, someone said, hey, TikTok is, going live on TikTok, it's not strategy, this is a tactic. So that's not necessarily how you build a brand. That's actually not how you build a brand. Brand building has to do with what you say and what you preach, is something way more complex, right? And what's your views on CMOs today? Do you think they're a bit more reactive with all of the fragmentation that we have in the media ecosystem? How do you see that?
Yes, I agree that CMOs are more reactive every day, but I see it as a positive thing, because things are happening every day,
Mm-hmm.
and new tools and new ways of reaching people. And yesterday it was a trend where people were dancing in TikTok, and now TikTok is
Mm-hmm.
more a way of sharing other kind of things, and everything can be a tactic only, or part of a strategy. It depends on how we are doing. I had clients that say, I need to be in all social networks, and if you don't have a strategy behind, it is a tactic,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, you will be there and posting things, and perhaps won't resonate, or perhaps they will resonate. but it was like because of luck, not because
Mm,
it was something planned.
mhm,
So the difference between it's an only tactical activity or not, it is the strategy behind. Because
mhm,
sometimes you can see a TikTok account, and you can think that it has not um, a specific purpose, but it's part of a strategy. It's not
mhm,
necessarily to generate leads, for example. It's
mhm,
more awareness, more reach. It depends on the objective.
mhm,
Right now, for example, we balance different platforms. For example, for leads, perhaps Meta platform or Google. For reach, it can be TikTok. No, but it's part of a whole strategy and not only doing it for doing it, because if you do
mhm.
it for doing it, the result
Yeah.
won't be successful, you know. But
Mhm,
I think it's good to be reactive. I think it's good.
mhm,
We need to be like, they always say, like, when I was a kid, like, the doctors, they always need to be learning new things, you know.
mhm.
I think it's for everyone. It's just for doctors, you know. It's like
Yeah.
uh, business are moving forward.
Mhm.
Which area?
And fast,
Finance or
and real fast. Yeah.
marketing and fast, and we need to learn. So we need to speak tech. Now, this is very
Mhm,
important to understand technology, to know
mhm,
how to use it. Today is artificial intelligence. Yesterday was social media. Tomorrow will be whatever, you know, like metaverse. I don't know. This will continue evolving, and we need to be adapting and being reactive. But it's not only like shifting with like a hen without a head. It's like just moving and understanding what things are happening, and doing it like correctly, not just jumping in between trends just for being there, you know. Like I don't want to give that message that it's like just jumping from side to side. It's like define your strategy, follow your values, and try new things every day.
Brilliant. Thank you. Gustavo, you want to ask your questions? Edmund.
Yeah, just I think well, just commenting on what you were saying. I did I studied advertising in the university, and some time ago, I believe the and then this is also like a comment, and I'd love also like your thoughts on that. So I believe for some time ago, the marketers and the advertisers, they were more responsible for setting the trends, because you had basically the television, and you had the advertisement, and then they basically had basically all the power in that sense. And but nowadays, I think the major shift that the CMOs and the advertisers needed to learn, and they need to adapt, and they need to deal with, and learn how to deal with and how to work with that, is that they are not in the 100% in the control of the trends that people are seeing, because nowadays everyone can be basically an advertiser or a trendsetter. And what do you think about that?
No, that's a very interesting point, Gustavo, because yes, we come from a history that was like unidirectional, you know, like like the TV. They send the message and you receive it, and there was no interaction, you know. Like
Yeah.
now with this shift, where we can go back and forth, and we are proposing and giving content, brands need to be aware of this, because not
Mm.
not only the brands are setting the pace of the trends. There can be a user that did something and then it became huge, you know?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's why user generated content, it's more genuine, and it's more like um, people like this kind of content more, because it seems more natural and not necessarily like that corporate. And that is why like companies are adopting this new trend, because I think this is amazing, no? To having the opportunity that you
Yeah.
from your desktop can begin a new
Mhm.
trend. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's part of this exciting new world, and I think that gives a challenge to all the marketing teams, because we need to be aware of these trends. We need to see what is working, what is not, and try to adapt to this way of doing things. It's like AI. AI existed from many years ago, and once you
Mhm.
give it to all the people, that the magic starts happening everywhere, no? And startups there, and useful things everywhere, and new ways of doing things, new ideas. Once we have like this crowdsourcing, like people everywhere doing things to
Mhm.
build something, it's when you
Yeah.
see great things, no? So that's very interesting, Gustavo.
Yes, because I remember when I was well, younger, and basically all the trends and what we were talking about on the streets, these were generated by TV commercials and everything. So you had this, well, I know a lot from Brazil because it's
Yeah, and
the
they still are. They still are,
the
but they
the
are not
what.
the only ones doing it?
Yes, exactly, and I believe I believe nowadays is more about that because nowadays we can see that some of these trends they appear, and some brands have the capacity and the velocity to get the trend right in the beginning, and then they can jump in, and then they can serve that way together with that. Because I believe it's also that, as we were saying, they do not need to create from the beginning, but they need to be aware. They need to be looking everywhere, right? And have also these, as you said, the strategy and the vision to understand the channel. So maybe there's one trend in TikTok, but this doesn't connect with my brand or with what I want to pass to other, but in this other trend in I don't know, in Instagram or whatever, that connects more with me.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
that's
we've all seen a trend, like a company following a trend that it's not recent. Like no, this was like a month ago. Come on, it's not relevant anymore. So we need to be careful on
yeah.
that and be fast. You know.
Yes, totally. And together with that, my other question would be like, I think it's well connected with the same subject, which is more like some time ago. Uh, Now focusing more on CMOs. CMOs were more like as we were telling, looking, let's say, only around strategy, and they could think more in terms of branding, strategy, and the message and everything else. And nowadays, it's my perception, they need to add on top of everything that they need to deal with. You have AI and everything, but on top of that, they also need to think in terms to add that in terms of, as we were saying, different channels, different tax solutions that connect one with the other, and different tax stack at the end of the day, and different channels and all of that. So, I, is it fair to say that now these CMOs, the evolution of them should be could be like they are more the orchestrators of everything with a team that is more specialized, the different persons that more specialized in the others, but they are looking more to orchestrate and yeah, they need to learn to know everything beneath that.
Yes, that's a very good question because it's hard to understand everything, no? You nowadays see like people searching for someone expert in X, in Meta, in TikTok, in digital advertising. So, so it's not that easy to really dominate all the tools and all the platforms. And as a CMO, definitely you need to become an orchestrator because you need to get a very good team, an expert in digital, an expert in out of home, perhaps, and an expert in and that's why we as agencies exist because sometimes the companies don't have enough hands, and it's fair enough. And sometimes you need to produce a video, but you don't need to produce video every week, so why do you need to hire someone producing video if you can hire an external service to create a video, you know but you need to orchestrate very well because at the end of the day you have your internal team, you have a PR agency, you have a social media agency, you have the research agency, and you need to make them work together to understand that the goal is the same and the business is moving this way, because if not you will have different results, someone working from that direction, the other one to the other direction, and you get nowhere. So the orchestrating part of a CMO is part of it, is part of the position. And you need to not only coordinate the activities, but the philosophy and the culture of the company and the goals, so everyone understand you are doing a design, okay, but what are the values of the brand, what we are expecting, because if you are going to make an ad, you can say, okay, I'm going to do an ad for Nike. Well, I can put someone running, you know with the sneakers, and that's
Mhm.
it. But what is the strategy behind? We are going to reach the runners community, or we are like pursuing like more like the NFL fans, or what is that? So we need to be aligned and orchestrate this so this works seamlessly, basically. So that's not easy.
Mm.
Great, great.
I have one, Gustavo. Thank you, man. Thanks. I have one final question. The sun is out and it's very beautiful in Denmark. Finally,
I can see, I can
the
see.
summer, the summer lasts like 2 months, Rodrigo. So hold
Enjoy
your
it.
horses.
You're there. Sorry for holding you there and not being outside right now.
That's why I'm close to the veranda here. But the question I have for you is in terms of cross-border partnerships, and let me just check my clue because I had it here. So uh, it's the final question, Rodrigo. We have to wrap up. So you worked across North America, Latin America, Europe. What are some overlooked opportunity when it comes to cross-border marketing partnerships? And how do you see international collaboration, reshaping the role of marketing in the next years?
Well, first of all, the name of the game is a team game. Like
Mhm.
we need to do team, and the new technologies allows us to work with people from different countries and different places. Uh, Even you are not in the same place, that's
Yeah.
interesting. You are different countries. So this is very important to embrace that we are a global community, that you can find talent everywhere, that you can find the right person for your organization in every country. It's very important. So this is a very relevant part of working together and doing things. But it's very important to understand cultural differences. Usually companies trying to assume that people talk the same globally, and not necessarily. For example, a common mistake in Latin America is that they see our region as the same, that
Yeah.
we all speak the
Exactly.
same and we all behave the same. And there are very, very interesting differences between Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil,
Hmm.
not only the language,
Yeah.
but culturally, the way of doing things, the way of we behave. And it
Mhm.
happens, like obviously in Europe, because you have different cultures and different languages,
Mhm.
it's more common to understand the differences. But it's a common mistake to see as a whole the region, and not
Mhm.
necessarily we are the same. And this is some things that we need to understand and try to apply. Like we all like to read an ad or read an article in our
Mhm.
own language. You,
Mhm.
you always detect when someone wrote something that it's not a native. So
Mhm.
that's why we need to partner, because we all love our native language, and we like to use it for doing business as well.
Mhm.
Obviously, we need to learn other languages to communicate with other people and get the best of a global community like this one.
Perfect. Do you see that from your time at Crealytics, right? The Pentaleap and Comscore, were there did you feel that they overlooked or that they missed opportunities in the regions, in Latin America? Do you feel anything like that?
Well, at Comscore, definitely they didn't, because they understood this very well, and that's why they decided to have a local support on almost all of the markets that was
Mm-hmm.
possible. No,
Mm-hmm.
and Crealytics the same. They didn't have a specific focus at that time in Latin America. They
Mm-hmm.
were focusing more on the US market, in the European market, but definitely they knew this, and they hire people locally that understands the local way of doing business. No, but I worked with other companies, specifically at Comscore. We were partnered with some other companies that they don't have the same belief. No, and this is common, and I will not say the name of the companies, but definitely they don't see the value of speaking the local language or the local way of doing things. And
Sure,
I
sure.
think this is crucial in the actual world.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you really want to grow in a market, you have to go deep, and in order to go deep, you need to have to, the local knowledge, the local nuances. Sometimes even in Brazil, you have the different states. Like São Paulo is
Hmm.
very different to Rio de Janeiro. Cidade
Hmm.
del México different to Guadalajara. I don't know. It's crazy, right?
Yes.
So you need people who understand how to navigate those nuances, and so very interesting. Rodrigo, fascinating topic. Thanks so much. We'll do more of this. If you have any final remarks or any advice for people who are going through a career transition, what would you say?
Yes, just to it can hear or sound like cheesy, but follow your goals, your dreams. Believe me, jump and go full in. Like go give everything for your dream, and things will happen. That's the way.
Beautiful. Rodrigo Cerón, ladies and gents. Rodrigo, thanks so much. I'll see you
No,
at the
Carlos, my pleasure.
backstage. Yeah, of course, man. Thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you very much.
Let me just pause the session. Oh,